Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you a few basic exercises for shoulder and scapular stability. Exercises I'll be covering are Serratus Punches and scapular press-ups, which I feel are very underrated. By doing scapular protraction and retraction, you're really helping to isolate and activate the serratus anterior. This muscle is linked to improvements in scapular stability and shoulder pain, as well as being used in treating scapular winging. I personally find it has helped me to engage my scapula and gain more control in pushing and stabilizing overhead. I've also noticed that this is the forgotten movement. That's often a new one when I work with new clients, and it makes the biggest difference with them from day one in increasing their scapular control. So here we are doing Serratus Punches. You want to grab a light band and bring it behind you so that it is roughly in line with your shoulder. It can be slightly above. And you're going to be holding your arm out in line with your shoulder while your elbow is completely locked out. So you're going to be pushing your scapula forward and back, so you're going to be protracting and retracting. Try to think of where the serratus muscles are, and that should help you feel a little bit more what you're trying to activate. The serratus muscles stabilize and protract the scapula. They're not often a focal point of training, but when starting out with your scapular training, then this is a handy tool to use to try to get extra activation. So here we have the kneeling version of scapular push-ups. You should be feeling your serratus anterior just underneath your ribs here and focusing on pushing your shoulder blades apart from each other. So as you push into the ground, you're going to be pushing your shoulder blades away, and that is when you should be really engaging and feeling your serratus anterior. This should be a lot easier if you've just done the banded version of the exercise in the beginning of this video. So two very simple things to think about. So when you're coming down with the body, you're thinking of bringing your shoulder blades together like you're trying to pinch a pencil between your shoulder blades. If you're pushing the ground away, you're bringing your scapula apart, and that is when you should be feeling your serratus anterior. If this version is far too easy for you, you can do this also in a plank position, and you can also add a red band around your shoulders and onto your hands to add resistance. So next we're going over scapular cars. So now we're thinking of our scapula in a circular motion, but really all this is bringing together the four motions. So it's bringing the scapula apart and together, as well as close to the ears as possible and as far away from the ears as possible, while maintaining straight elbows. So eventually this sort of cube motion becomes a circular motion, and you start feeling more comfortable doing the cars. This can also be done standing up with your arms overhead or your arms by your sides, but this is the first one we're going to attempt. So here I'm demonstrating scapular cars with your arms by your sides. Of course you don't have to add the band like I am, but this is adding a little bit of tension for me. So overhead scapular cars are a little bit more tricky. Here I am using quite a heavy pole, but you can actually just use a band or a dowel rod, which is virtually weightless, which will be a little bit easier. Just bear in mind to try to track if your arms are directly overhead rather than leaning completely forward, but you're still going to get benefits either way. So in this next exercise we are doing scapular retraction, PAILs and rails. You want to grab some plates or some yoga blocks close to your shoulders, but comfortable enough as well so that they're not too high. So this is my level that is considered end range, but yours might be a bit lower or a bit higher.
You want to bring your scapula back and down and then hold this position to make sure that there's a tiny bit of a stretch at the front of your shoulders, but not so much that it is painful. You can stay in this position for 2 minutes if you need to get comfortable, and then we're going to start with the PAILs and rails. So to begin with, we're going to push down into the plates as hard as possible for 10 seconds. Then you're going to lift up, keeping your scapula retracted and bringing your elbows as high as possible. We're going to start off with 10 seconds PAILs, 10 seconds rails for 3 rounds. Just bear in mind with this exercise to keep your hips tucked under and your ribs pushing down so that you end up with a nice flat spine. You don't want to be hyperextending with the back on this one. So this next exercise I discovered in the beginning of lockdown when I didn't have access to a lat pull down machine. So all you're doing is hinging at the hips in order to get the band overhead. You're then retracting the scapula back and down, and then you're pulling with the elbows. Adding in this conscious effort to bring in that scapular motion really changes the effect of this exercise. If, say, you end up doing 10 reps and 3 sets, by the end of that round, you should really feel your scapula have worked hard, and you'll feel a difference as it transfers into other movements. For example, when you end up doing a pull-up, you should feel a difference with your scapular stability. So for our first shoulder stability drill, we are going to have our elbow in a 90-degree angle with an inverted kettlebell. We're going to bring the scapula back and down while we hold this isometrically for up to 10 seconds. So this next shoulder stability drill is quite advanced, so just make sure that you're comfortable overhead before doing it. You're going to get into a 90-90 position, and from there we're going to hip hinge, squeeze the glutes, and while pushing the ribs down, you're going to maintain a nice straight elbow with your fist right over your shoulder so that it's in a form of weight as carry.
I hope you guys found that video useful. If you did, please subscribe.